Deploy software, upgrade operating systems, all at the speed and scale of Tanium. Welcome back to Go-Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone, and I know many of you are happy customers of the Tanium Deploy module. You like the prepackaged software gallery and the Windows in-place upgrades and the end-user self-service installs. These are the things that you tell us that you really enjoy about this particular module of Tanium. Well, today, our special guest returns with an update on what's new in Tanium Deploy. And for those of you who've never seen it, this will be a good first look for you. So back for the second time on Go-Tanium Tech Talks is Patrick Tilson, and he's the lead SME for Deploy. And we've talked to other lead SMEs on the show. He's the SME of all Deploy SMEs, right? So welcome back to the show, Patrick. And for those who didn't meet you last time, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, excited to be here, Ashley. I am the lead Deploy SME. I've been with Tanium for about 5.5 years. I've filled a few different roles at Tanium in that time, but I've spent most of the last 2 years really focused on the Deploy module and helping our customers get as much value out of it as they can.
You know, Deploy is just one of those rock solid core module capabilities of Tanium that so many customers use. And I know we've not done really a good overview on the module. I was hoping you could kind of start out with that for our viewers. So maybe some people haven't seen it, and just give us an overview of what are the capabilities in Deploy.
Well, Deploy is our module for managing third-party software on Tanium managed endpoints. So updating, installing, removing various software titles that our customer operators need to manage in those environments. So we give you the ability to do that with a concept called software packages, which lets you define what a piece of software looks like on an endpoint, what sort of files it uses, or how it shows up in the endpoint's package manager, like add remove programs on Windows. To help make our customers' lives a lot easier, what we do is we create our own software package definitions that we ship in our predefined package gallery that our customers can import and deploy to their endpoints to manage those. In addition, and one of the things I want to talk about in some detail today, we give our customers the ability to present our end user self-service interface to their users, so that they can self-manage their own endpoints, even without having local administrative rights or other privileged rights on those endpoints.
You know what, before you dive off of that real quick, I noticed you've got the list filtered to Mac and Apple.
I do.
And I know we've got a lot more in there because I'm looking at the total. It says 6 of 224 titles. Wow, that's impressive. That's a big predefined gallery.
It is, and it's getting bigger. It was about half this size when we last spoke. Personally, I would love to see the growth accelerate even more. I can't commit to anything, but we do try to add packages periodically as our customers request them, as there becomes a clear need to bring them in here.
And what are some of the most popular titles in the gallery, you think?
So certainly, the most common things we see customers use are browser updates, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and then common productivity tools like Microsoft Office, Adobe Acrobat. And of course, one of our most common use cases, one of the things that frankly a lot of our customers buy Deploy for, is our in-place upgrade capabilities. So we've shipped for years now software packages that help you upgrade Windows to newer versions, supported versions of Windows 10 and now Windows 11. Speaking of enhancing and adding to this gallery, there are a couple things I want to talk about quickly today that are some important additions to the gallery. One is a bit of a preview that you saw initially, which is we are adding macOS in-place upgrades. Currently, we've got just Big Sur and Monterey there. We'll add new versions as Apple releases them. For those familiar with our Windows upgrade content, fortunately, Apple makes this a little bit easier for the most part. This content's going to be really easy to use. You import it into Deploy. You deploy it in a two-phase approach where you pre-cache the installer files and then you trigger the upgrade. You don't have to do any sort of customization or things like that you do with a Windows in place upgrade. So we're really excited that this is going to help our customers manage their macOS versions really easily. On that note, we've also added Microsoft feature update packages. They're so far just for Windows 10 21H2. What this lets you do is upgrade certain versions of Microsoft Windows to a newer version with just like with the Apple OS upgrades, with minimal configuration. You just import this, you deploy it. This is a one-step package. It doesn't take very long, really easy to use. This is already released. This is not a preview. You can even read about it in our deploy user guide. So if you're going to Windows 10 version 21H2, this is something you want to be aware of because it's going to make your life a lot easier.
Man, those are just tremendous announcements. Thank you for delivering those here on the show. And I know it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure we do this already. You mentioned Office earlier, and I know this has been a struggle for a lot of folks, how to update Office. Could you talk about that for a second?
So we have Office packages for Mac and Windows. For Windows, the big thing that people need is Office Click to Run, which you might think of as Office 365 or Microsoft 365 apps. We actually have on Tanium Community an article that goes into a little bit of depth on how to use these packages and how to configure them and customize them in case you have specific settings you need or you need to change which apps install. But even if you don't want to get into all that, these packages are pretty straightforward. You can just import them, deploy them as an update if that's what you're trying to do, and they'll update Office. This is a kind of a big deal because Microsoft Office Click to Run is really the way of the future. Most of our customers, I think at this point, have switched to using this newer installation method. That's a little bit different to manage than most Windows software. Took a little bit of engineering to get this working, but we've got a solution that works really well that I think most of our customers are really happy with. One more thing I'll say is we've recently started even upgrading our packages so that they will, under the right conditions, unless you change this configuration, everything's configurable, but under the right conditions, they'll actually do a direct update from Microsoft over the internet. So if you're worried about the time it takes to do this update, or you're worried about managing bandwidth in your Tanium environment, you can avoid some unnecessary download time by doing it that way.
Man, that's sweet. That's just like the patch direct download now in
it is.
That's good news.
Yeah. And just like everything else in here, these are things that we try to enhance over time as we come up with ways to make them better and easier to use.
I was actually just having dinner with a customer last night. They've been a customer for less than a year, and they said with their previous endpoint management product, they struggled with Windows updates, but now it's easy peasy using Deploy, and they're loving it.
That's great to hear. We try to make it as easy as we can.
Well, I keep asking questions, and we're not going to get very far if I keep asking questions. And this is just the gallery, right? This is all that you get out of the box. So let's keep going. What else you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we don't have a ton of time here today, as you know, Ashley. So I won't go into the details of how you configure software packages and all the little things you can do with them. I will mention briefly, since we're here, we also have software bundles, which lets you do an ordered step of software packages in case, say, you need to replace one productivity suite with another, or an antivirus tool with another, or maybe you have one software that depends on another software package before it'll run. So this is necessary for a lot of customers to deploy certain things. We also let you, within these bundles, and this is really important, we let you specify to always use the latest version of a piece of software. So if you really want to use Deploy as your source of third-party patching, where there's an update to something and you want it to go out, you can deploy one of these bundles to just constantly keep that software up to date on your endpoints and not have to worry about deploying a new software package every time a version of the 100 applications or 1,000 applications you manage comes out.
Man, that's sweet. I mean, that is such a everyday real world use case, and so I'm thinking about like even deploying brand new machines. They could fall into that as well and just get everything automatically. Is that right?
Absolutely. A lot of our customers, in fact, use software bundles to create a sort of baseline where this is a new machine. We're going to target it with this bundle, so you get this default software. Or maybe we're going to go as far as defining different business units or departments, and we're going to deploy bundles to them that give the software that business unit or department needs.
Well, what's next?
Yeah. So I mentioned self-service. So that's our end user self-service client that lets end users manage their own machines with the software packages you make available to them. So real quick, I'll show what that looks like in Deploy. You can create these different profiles that you target at different endpoint groups, and they have different software packages. So I'll go into this one that we've got, that I've got in this test environment. You can see here I've added a few different software packages to it, including the feature update I mentioned to Windows 10 21H2. If I wanted to edit this and add some other things, this gives us a complete view of all the software packages we've got here. I can filter it to only show the latest in case I'm, of course, just trying to keep everything up to date. And with each package that I add, you can see we give you the option to do install, update, or remove, any combination of those three. So if you think about maybe you want your end user to be able to keep their app up to date, but you don't want just anybody to be able to install that thing or remove it. You have different options here depending on what your need is. And then, of course, if it's something that requires a restart, you can specify that so that it'll prompt the user to restart after it's done installing.
And that also comes with the end user notification experience, right?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit without going into a ton of depth on that. When you create a new deployment, you can define an end user notification to prompt the user that you're going to do this deployment and to tell them that you're done with the deployment or you need to reboot after the deployment. So once you've selected a package, you go through your deployment options. I won't go into the details on those, but I'll show you briefly what this looks like, which is, as you see, you get to define a title, a body icon, and a title icon. So you can use a company logo or whatever you want. You can put whatever text you want here, including you can kind of semi-automate this by doing some variables we've got, like deployment name or package name, which are covered in the deploy user guide, so that you can save this as a reusable deployment template. So whenever you create a deployment, you have this notification content pop up and say, we're going to run this deployment name, or we're going to do this software package. So this will pop up before the end user, before the deployment runs and installs or updates this software. And then you can do the same thing after it's done, notify them that it's done, including if you need to force a reboot, you do that. Now we talk about end user notifications and end user self-service together. You'll notice when you look at them, they're very similar. They're kind of the same interface, and they are actually related. Just real briefly, I want to show you, we have this end user notifications interface where you configure what the end user self-service portal looks like. In a second, when I show you that end user self-service client, I want to show you some things on that you're going to want to understand that you come here to manage. So we let you control the look and feel of this interface, the title, the logo if you want it, the text that you display to your end users, and whether they get a desktop shortcut or start menu shortcut, and whether you support additional languages. Just to give some context to what these options really mean, if I pull up an endpoint here, you can see we've got these things. We've got this text, this icon. We've got a link here. You can put a link to your help desk site or something if you've got a place you want people to go when they need to contact, the IT help desk for support. And we show you, of course.
I just have to say, I know I'm interrupting, but this looks so, I mean, we did the show a year ago, and you
Yes.
guys have really put a lot of work into this. This new
Yes.
UI looks snazzy. I
I
like
may
it.
be bearing the lead here by telling you what the feature is, because yeah, we really updated the look and feel of this. It was, it was looking a little dated. It was kind of basic. It really functioned, and it functions the same as it did for the most part before. We've added a couple new features. But yeah, we really put some bells and whistles on this that we've largely gotten positive feedback from our customers on. So
Yeah, I
what
see
are those? What
why.
does that look like?
Yeah, let's go
Yeah,
through
so
it.
that support link is a new thing. That's part of why I bring it up. Um, I didn't show you this, but within Deploy, within a software package, you can configure a different name to display here, and you can configure text to show the users. So, for example, if I mouse over here, I've got some description
Ooh,
text I put into the
nice.
software package to give the user some more information. And you can also see it shows, the disk space required when it was updated, things like that, and whether or not it needs a restart. Um, so by comparison, the feature update to Windows 10 does. So I configured it to say that. Let's talk about the new interface before I get too into those software packages. So we kind of reorganized this. You've got the catalog here. That's what those self-service profiles and deploy define. You can mix and match those. You can target 100 profiles at 1,000 different combinations of endpoints, and they sort of whatever you've got in that configuration, the endpoint adds it all together, and you get that displayed here within this interface. You can see at the top, we've got some filters. So you can filter by what type of operation it is, whether it's a package update, a bundle, something that you can remove, something you can install, or any of the above. By default, we're filtering. This is really important in my opinion, because we didn't used to do this. We're filtering only the applicable software packages. So you just see stuff that you can do as an end user. You can also click this button to see everything. This means these things aren't applicable. Either they're already installed and you can't remove them, or there's some requirement in them that this endpoint doesn't meet. This is here just so you as an operator can troubleshoot if the end user isn't seeing something you think they should see. We added this updates tab. So thinking back to, we talked about deploying a bundle or deploying software package updates, using Deploy for third-party patching. This is an easy button for your end users to come in and just see what software needs to get updated on their endpoint and do it themselves at their own convenience. So they don't have to get interrupted later by you pushing an update that has this notification that says, hey, you got to update this thing. It's insecure, it's out of date. They can just come in here at their own convenience. They can click update all and update all the things, or just update the title that they want to update.
All right, now two quick questions.
Yeah.
When we started this was already up on your screen. As an end user, how do you get to the end user self-service?
Yeah, so I mentioned before we configure a desktop or start menu shortcut. So I do have that configured in my end user notifications configuration. You can see here I've got a self-service shortcut on my desktop. I just open that. And by the way, self-service client is our default name. You can name it whatever you want. That was one of the things in that configuration. So it can be as personalized, customized as you want it to be. And same thing with all this text, of course.
All right. And then the second question I have is, I noticed in the package gallery, there was Windows, Mac, and Linux software packages to deploy. So the next question I know our audience is wondering is, so end user notification, what is the support for that cross-platform? And then end user self-service, how do those figure out with cross-platform?
Yeah, so end user notifications are supported on Mac and Windows. We added support for Mac, gosh, must be more than a year and a half ago now. Those work identically across Windows and Linux. So if you're managing, Windows and Mac, you're managing fleets of Windows and or Mac devices, you can use notifications. Currently, end user self-service is Windows only. However, we are actively developing, in fact, almost done developing end user self-service for Mac. As with anything, yeah, it is exciting. We're excited about it. It'll look and work just like it does on Windows. As with everything else, I can never commit to a specific time or date, but this is something that should be coming in the next few months.
Oh, that's great.
Linux, and if it wasn't clear from the answer, Linux does not support end user notifications or end user self-service. Frankly, we haven't received a lot of customer feedback that they want that or would use it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Only the things I wanted to show you in this interface. We have this history tab. We've had this before. It shows the end user what has happened via the self-service client on their endpoint, or what deployments you've deployed to them that you allow them to see. One of the options in deploy is whether they can either start a deployment early from EUSS or hide it. So if you want to push something truly silently, you can, or you can push things and give the user the ability to run it ahead of time. So I've pushed the feature update to Windows 10 21H2 to this endpoint with a future start time, but I've given the end user the ability to start it early in case they don't, they're not going to be around at that time, or they don't want it to interrupt them at that time. And I'm going to click that button, and what's going to happen is that's going to start running. So now we see it go. We see it was under available or upcoming activity, and now it's under currently running. And we're going to show you in this interface and back on the catalog tab that this thing's running, which we'll see it. If we sit here long enough, we'll see it go through downloading, and we'll see it give me an end user notification prompt and then prompt for the reboot. Now, this is a feature update to Windows. It can take a little while, so I don't think we're going to wait around for those, but that's what happens. That's how it works. One other really important thing I want to show you that's new to this interface that we're pretty excited about, and it's silly, but we're excited because a lot of customers ask for it, and it makes sense. If I click on one of these titles, I'm going to get this prompt. Do you really want to do this thing? We didn't have that before, and that actually is really important, it turns out, because if you accidentally click the wrong thing, it starts running. You maybe installed or removed something you didn't mean to. So we've added that. We're going to add more stuff. This is something that's being actively developed and supported. We're really happy with how it's turned out. But yeah, hopefully what I've shown you is useful and helpful and meets the needs. So far, we've gotten really good feedback on it.
Behind the scenes, I'm just thinking about, basics of Tanium, right? So the Tanium platform, with the way we shard files and distribute them across endpoints, especially when you've got a lot of endpoints in the same subnet, you're downloading it once per subnet, and just all that efficiency, the speed, the scale behind Tanium. And then on top of it, the user gets this handy interface where they can pick what they want, when they want, update, remove, install this. And then, as you said earlier, the real benefit here is that you don't have to grant admin rights to your end users, and they can have this nice interface for their
I think we talked about that last year even. The ability even to remove or update software without admin rights, never mind installing it, is really useful to a lot of our customers. So a lot of them use this. I'm embarrassed to admit, I actually forgot we added a downloading progress bar to this interface. So you can actually see here that we're showing this. Now, I'm sure most of our viewers and you have looked at some progress bars in their lifetime. And, progress bars don't always show you exactly the level of detail you want. So I don't want to oversell this. Right now, it's showing you downloading 0%. In about a minute here, it's probably going to go to 100% or move on to the next step, because this isn't actually a very large software package. And, there we go. The rate at which we're able to measure that we're downloading is not quite as fast as the Tanium client can download it, which is extremely fast, as we know. You saw we went from downloading to waiting. If I'd installed a Microsoft Office update, which is 1 to 2 gigabytes, we would have seen that progress bar over time, which on a larger package like that really makes a difference to the end user, who give it 5 minutes and they say, hey, is this thing working? I'm going to contact the help desk. So hopefully we can head some of that off with this new feature.
Now I'm going to ask a question, and you don't have to answer this. All right. But I know a lot of people, they've got patch and they're deploying patches. They've got deploy and end user self-service, and they'd like to see that come together so that you can have end users choose when to patch their box. I've heard some rumors, and I don't want you to talk about anything you're not allowed to talk about yet, but can you give us any indication about what might be coming there?
A little bit less certainty on the time frame, but that is something that's actively being developed. We do fully intend to release end user self-service capabilities for patch, at least on Windows, in the not too distant future. Presumably Mac would be not long after that.
Man, this has been just an exciting tour of all these new features, and we've got Windows, Mac, and Linux in here now, and it's come so far. It's been fun to watch. I remember when Deploy was first released, and to watch it come so far has been wonderful.
It really has. We went from Windows only with about a dozen packages in the gallery in our initial release and now, as we saw, we've got over 200. We've got a couple Linux packages in there. We've got a bunch of Mac titles and about 150 Windows titles.
It's a beautiful thing. So we're ready to wrap up here. Anything else you want people to know? Where do they send you feedback, things like that? What resources are available for them?
We're really trying to be diligent about putting content in our Deploy user guide. Whenever we get questions or feedback about anything that's unclear about the product and how to use it, we try to put it there. So definitely give that a look. But always, when people have questions or feedback, they should reach out. They should contact Tanium support, or if they, have an account TAM, they should work with them. There are a couple exceptions where we've got community articles. As I mentioned before, we've got that Office Click to Run community article written by Jason Wasser, one of our Deploy SMEs. There's some other great content on community that people should check out as well.
And I'll be sure to put some of those in the show notes for folks. So Patrick, thank you for coming back to the show to give us, 1 year, a lot changes in the world of software. There's so much here you guys have delivered. Thank you. And so for those of you who are watching, and remember, we've got tons of resources for you. So docs.tanium.com, that's where you're going to find that Deploy user guide. Over in community.tanium.com, you're going to have the Deploy Central page, which is going to have a lot of resources all linked there for you in one place. We'll have those links here in the show notes on the YouTube description below. And then, of course, kb.tanium.com, you can go see if you're on-prem and you're deploying these updates yourself. You can see what's in each one of those updates as the features and fixes come through. So tons of resources out there for you around Deploy. Now, you know what's coming next. I made it through the whole show and I've not mentioned Converge yet. If you haven't signed up for Converge, converge.tanium.com. We're going to be live in person in Austin, Texas. You're going to get to meet Doug Thompson, the host of the Tanium podcast. You're going to get to meet him as well. So there's a lot of folks that you're going to get to meet that you've only seen on this show and over on the Endpoint Explorer show. You'll get to meet some of those people in person at Converge, not to mention the hands-on labs, the capture the flag, and then the big main stage keynotes. It's just going to be a lot of fun, especially after lockdown and pandemic, everybody getting to be in person again. So we're really looking forward to see you there. If you absolutely can't make it in person, we will be able to stream some of the sessions online, but we would love to see you there in person. So go to converge.tanium.com and sign up today. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Go-Tanium Tech Talks. Until next time, Go-Tanium.